Welcome to Liberty Free to Be, the podcast that celebrates women finding their voice, their confidence, and their own version of freedom. I'm your host, Rachel Peru, speaker, model, storyteller, and a champion of showing up as your most unapologetic self. Each episode, I sit down with incredible women who share the real, powerful, sometimes messy stories that shaped who we are today. So settle in. This is your reminder that you are free to grow, free to change, and free to be fully, fabulously you. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Liberty Free to Be. And yes, I did miss a week last week, but I'm sure that can be forgiven under the circumstances. I was back over in France sorting out my dad's affairs, and I'm getting back into work this week, and it feels good to be back home. So thank you for everybody's support. I've had some lovely messages over the last couple of weeks, and I have missed the conversations last week, so I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. And today's guest is a lady that I actually met through the Yorkshire Ladies Links events. And I'm not sure about you, but I used to absolutely dread networking. I used to really struggle. I actually once, my first networking event was in Harrogate, and I sat in the car for about half an hour watching everybody going in thinking, I don't know a single person in here. What am I going to talk about? I went in, I forced myself to go in, and I had such a good night. I met some friends that I still stay in contact with, and I have made some really great connections and real friends through networking events. And today's guest is definitely one of those people that I now class as somebody that has inspired me, and we are going to stay connected, and I really love what she's doing. So today we are talking to Rachel Hill. And if you have always wondered what it's like to wake up one morning and step out of your comfort zone and do something completely different, Rachel is a successful businesswoman, and one day decided that she would turn life around, do something completely different, and she bought a model village in Yorkshire. So we have got a lot to talk about this morning. I am intrigued to find out what sparked this, and especially because it's so different to the career she's had in the past, but we've got lots to find out this morning. Grab a coffee and enjoy. Hi, Rachel. We have finally got into this conversation. I can't wait to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I've been excited to talk to you. Thank you for asking me.
Well, we had this planned a couple of weeks ago, but for obvious reasons, I had to postpone. So I've been so looking forward to it. And as I said in my introduction, we first met through Yorkshire Ladies Links. And I don't know about you, but I used to absolutely hate networking. And now I love it because I get to meet lovely people like yourself. But how do you feel about networking? Is it always something that you've done, or are you kind of learning to like it?
Yeah, I think I can really relate to, not liking it very much in years gone by. I really enjoy it now.
Mm,
Time is always such a problem. But I think it's really important to make time to network. I think being a woman in business can be a really lonely place, actually.
yeah.
The book stops with you, and it's hard to find your people. But I really, really enjoy Yorkshire Ladies Links. I think they do such a great job there. Mel obviously heading up such a great, forum of
Yeah.
business women and like-minded people. I think it's so important. Definitely imposter syndrome has been a thing for me when I was a younger woman in business. I started in my 20s, and I used to go into those spaces and think, oh my gosh, I'd get verbal diarrhea, wouldn't know what I was saying, and I
Yeah.
just felt like I shouldn't be there and I didn't belong. But yeah, these days I enjoy it.
Yeah, good. And we have got so much to talk about, and I almost think we've got to start back at the kind of the beginning of your business, to appreciate the journey that you've got on why you made the decision to kind of branch out and do something completely different by buying a model village. But before we get to that, what did you do before that? Because I know that you worked in supporting childcare and children and working with families. So what was your background before you did all this?
So my business background started when I started my own little private day nursery, way back when. I think it was 2007, and I opened a tiny little 16-place day nursery. And the morning I started, I had two little visitors, two children on roll, and there was just myself and one helper, one member of staff, and I created what I, believe, what looking back, it was so special. It was a real family environment. I'd collected through my career as a nursery nurse, working at various different nurseries and childcare settings. I'd collected all the very best bits that I thought would make a really wonderful place for children to be. And was very mindful of the things that I wouldn't want to include in a nursery of mine,
Yeah.
and yeah, it started then. And every year, well, within a year, I was full with a waiting list. Bearing in mind it was just a tiny nursery, but we just kept, growing it and building it and building it. And 16 years on, I had 4 private day nurseries, 800 families on my books, and
Wow.
nearly 100 staff. So it changed quite a lot. And
That's
that's where I learned, about being in business.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I can relate to that because I actually, before I did all this, I was a nursery assistant and early years teacher, so I worked in your industry when I was in my 40s before I started modelling. So I know what how difficult that is to maintain staff. To obviously you've got all the children's safety. It's a massive, massive job to do. So to undertake that with 4 different businesses is just incredible. So I can't begin to imagine how stressful that was as well.
Yeah, it really was at times. I mean, I've been recording snippets of my journey and my experiences on my social media. And I was just recording one this morning about, the tough times, and that when you start, I mean, I'm a nursery nurse. I'm so proud of that. I was a good nursery nurse and I was a childcare trainer. I wasn't a bookkeeper and a recruitment and HR and, all those things that come with running your own business. I'm completely self-taught. So there was a lot of homework going on behind the scenes. It was not just 9 to 5. I mean, private daycare isn't anywhere. You're opening your doors at 7:30 and you don't close your doors while 6, and you work, you don't have the school holidays. We worked 51 weeks a year. So it was a lot. And, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of it and so passionate about what we achieved with my, nursery chain, Hillside Childcare. So proud, but yeah, it had my life. We got married throughout the journey. I had 2 sons. One, my Tommy, he's got special needs. He's a wheelchair user. I mean, he's 16 now, but when I look back, what we did and what I went through personally as well at the same time. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, do you kind of think that it was almost too much of a cost at your expense? Did your health suffer? Did your mental well-being suffer through all that time?
Yeah, I think it probably did. Yeah, I mean, if I'm really honest, but absolutely no regrets. But there's times and there's things that I think back about, and I think, oh gosh, how did you do that? One of them, when I had one of the boys, I went off to the hospital. I laboured through the night, went off to the hospital about 6 a.m. and I was back at home at 4 p.m. and I picked emails up and checked in on the nurseries.
Sure.
It's not one of my brighter
Yeah.
moments. I didn't need to do that. Now, if I had my time again, I wouldn't do that. The nurseries wouldn't have burnt down if I were,
Yeah,
if I went off. It was just, it was so important to me. I cared so much about all my staff and all those little ones that came through the doors every day. It was just such a lot. Yeah, yeah, it will have done. There was one particular occasion I was, the 19th of every month was my payday. That's when all my staff were paid. And it was a December payday and it was payday Friday, before. So I wanted to
yeah,
pay them a little bit early. And I went up to my office and it was the Black Friday when that came about.
yeah,
So the internet just kept crashing. I kept trying to pay my wages online and it just wouldn't go through. And I don't know what happened, but I had a moment where um I collapsed. I thought I'll leave it. I'll leave my desk and I'll come back in the early hours when everything's calmed down, everyone's stopped doing their online Christmas shopping,
yeah,
and I'll come back and pay the staff. And as I was walking along the landing, I just went down and it really, really scared me. And it was stress.
yes,
I don't think, I mean, stress is your health and your well-being. Obviously it is, but medically really, really strong.
yeah.
But mind-wise, super strong as well. But I didn't always look after myself in that way. I don't know if I
So,
do now.
well, you've obviously had the passion for the business and it was so successful. So at what point did you decide, actually, this is the right time for me to leave this behind and let go of it? Because that must have been a really difficult decision. What brought you to that?
Gosh, I mean, making that decision was, it was over a long period of time. Well, a few months,
Mm.
not years, but a few months, and I'd just done my biggest renovation. I'd bought an old pub, a big old restaurant pub, and it was stunning. I was in a position where I could do that, and I could purchase the resources and
Yeah,
the equipment that I wanted. And it was absolutely stunning. And I loved the process. I loved the process of doing the renovation. And then when it came to open, nobody prouder. It was absolutely amazing. We had a soft opening for friends and family. Then we had an open day for, prospective families and existing families who were going to use the provision. And a couple of months in, it just felt like I couldn't. I had a really great staff team and a really great senior management team who, I love, I love now. They're really great friends. And they always said to me, we come to you because you can fix everything. If there's problems, we ring you. And I would drop everything always. I'd be on holiday. I'd be,
mm,
wherever I was, whatever I was doing, they could ring me. And I would fix their problems, and I stopped being able to fix the problems. And I found it was after COVID, after that period of time, where I
yeah,
think, there was a huge change. There was a huge change in our young people, in our staff that were coming through, because they'd all been through so much, and it
yeah,
was it was so hard. And I stopped being able to fix things. And I thought, if I can't fix things, who can help? Who can support them? And I felt like I wasn't me anymore. I was feeling upset and out of my depth, like I was swimming in treacle. I couldn't
yeah,
see the wood for the trees. I felt sad. And yeah, I mean, I could get emotional now, but simply went on a dog walk, took my Bentley for a walk, and I made the decision like that. And any big decisions that I've made throughout my life, I've done that. I think subconsciously there were contributing factors and things that I was thinking about and pondering. But once I knew, I knew. And I came back home, and we were crying, walking my dog crying. And my husband were around when I got home, and he says, "What's happened? What's happened? You all right?" And I says, I want to sell. I want to sell." And I don't think there were anyone more shocked than Mark and I, really. But yeah, I just felt I needed to find me again. And I would never have compromised the quality at my nurseries. And they were so good and so beautiful, and I cared so much. I wasn't a business owner that, flounced around, and I knew what was happening on my shop floors. I knew
yes,
my
yeah,
apprentices, I knew my managers, I knew the children and the families. And I felt like if I couldn't keep that quality, as good as it always had been, it was time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's
yeah.
brilliant that you can recognise that, because lots of people really struggle at that part of and stay almost a bit too long, and you've clearly listened to your own gut feeling on that and took
Yeah.
action. How did it feel then when you'd sold the business and you were kind of in that middle ground before you'd moved on to the next one? What period of time was that? Was that a nice relaxing time, or did you feel a bit lost and without a sense of purpose?
Really strange. I mean, gosh, there needs to be a handbook for when you sell a business. It was really, really strange, but it's quite a nice story. The nursery where I opened the very first nursery, it was in a little 2-room building attached to my house where I live now. And that was where I remember clearly the very, very first morning. I felt a bit nervous, but two families came in, and I had a sand pit, and the children came over. We were getting to know each other, and my husband came in, and he went, "Are you okay?" I says, "Yeah, yeah, I'm okay." He says, "Right, I'm going to go off to work now. Have a lovely day." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've got my own nursery." And throughout my journey, that first nursery we closed and rehoused in a local building, and that room became my office. And where the sandpit is now my desk. And it took 4 months from start to finish to sell. And I took the call, and Mark had gone to pick the boys up from school. So it was an afternoon, it was a Thursday afternoon, and my phone rang, and they said, "Congratulations, Rachel, you've completed the sales complete." And I was sitting in the very same spot that the business started in,
Yeah,
at my desk. And I took the call, and I said, "Thank you very much." And I hung up, and I just sat there. in silence. And not long after, it was really I took a picture actually. I did take a selfie, and I've got it, and I just transport me. Sometimes I go back and I think, wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
And then Matt came back. Boys rushed in, what's for tea? I am home. And he came round just the same as he did on that first day. He said, are you all right like that? And I said,
Oh,
I'm absolutely fine. But it were really strange, Rachel. It wasn't like, woo, not
yeah.
not at all. I actually felt quite sad sometimes around that period. And yeah, it's very, very. If anybody out there is listening who's thinking of selling the business, my gosh, get some support, because I didn't know
Mm,
what I was doing. I was like a rabbit in the headlights. It was
yeah.
strange
Yeah,
time.
because it's such a big part of your identity, isn't it, for a period of time, and then suddenly when that stops, it's like, "Okay, well, what do I do next? Who am I? It's that sense of purpose, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
But nothing could have prepared you for your next decision. You would never, if you'd have had a crystal ball, you would have never thought, "Gosh, this is what I'm gonna be doing next." So, at what point did Rachel wake up and think, "I'm going to buy myself a model village?"
Well, she didn't. So throughout the period of me selling, me being me, what the idea was to take some time out, but that
Mm,
really scared me. When I look back now, I'm not from, a background where you don't graft, where you
yes.
don't work. If you don't work, where I'm from, my gosh, there's major problems. Have to work. It's just how I am. It's all I know. So I was sat thinking, throughout the process of me selling, what's next? What's next? Or like panic mode, and there didn't need to be. It would have been okay for me to have, had a little 12 months off. It
Yes.
really, really would.
Yeah.
Um, one day we were coming close to completion. I literally, Matt it was so good throughout that period. As I say, it's a lot. And I did it alone. I didn't tell any single person outside my family unit that I was selling my business, because I didn't want to create a panic for staff and,
Yes.
and for my families. Um, so very lonely times. And it used to come in with coffees all throughout the day while I were working and doing the acquisition and that process of selling. And I was literally having a little scroll. It's no word of a lie. I was just on Facebook, and this beautiful image came up on my screen of, we've got a harbour, a model in the model village. It's a harbour, and there's a lighthouse and a castle as a backdrop. And I don't know, it's really impactful. It really speaks to everyone, does this little scene that we've got. And it just sparked something in me. I looked at it and I thought, oh gosh, I'm sure I've been there. I'm sure I've been there with my boys. And I didn't scroll past. I tapped on it and learned that Bondville Model Village is for sale, a beautiful attraction, tourist attraction. I thought, oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know why it was as simple as that. It spoke to me. And my favourite thing about being a nursery nurse and about working with children was setting out play scenes. I was a really big believer in giving children really quality learning experiences, because the outcomes are always better. So many nurseries will tip a bucket of Duplo Lego onto the middle of a table, or a bucket of cars onto the carpet, for the
Mm,
children to go and help themselves. I really took pride in my scenes. We were very, very good at my nurseries about bringing play to life. So if I
yeah.
was setting the farmyard and animals out, there would be hay, there would be soil, there'd be a bit of water for the ducks, there'd be sound.
Yeah.
It's just how I did it. So a whole model village was like small world heaven
Yes.
for them. And straight away I started thinking, oh, could do this, and I bought it, Rachel. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
did.
love it.
It was very, very run down, and it had been closed a couple of years. But Mark and I went to see it, and I sat, I call it the reflection seat now, because everybody sits on this bench in front of this harbour, and the harbour was empty, and everything was tipped over, everything was overgrown. It was really run down, but I just loved it, and it made me feel, I don't know, like it had to be mine. And that's
Yeah.
how I came to own a model village.
I love that. And actually it does make sense because of your background of working with children and with families. And this is such a well-known and well-loved tourist attraction now for children and families and for people to
Yeah.
come together. So there is that kind of symphony of what you've done before and what you're doing now. I can see why you've still got that passion, and it's still doing the same sort of thing, isn't it? And it's making sure that it's accessible for everybody. And
Yeah.
it sounds like such a joyful place to work now.
Oh my gosh, I mean, it really is. I'm like a different person. I think what I love, and it's evolved, I've let it lead me.
Mm,
It's a really loved little iconic attraction. You know, it's
yeah,
Yorkshire's Bondville Model Village. I think being an 80s girl, I was born 78, I was brought up in the 80s, and I had such a lovely childhood. I was so, so lucky. Um, you know, things like a model village and a trip, you know, our holidays were at the seaside, you know, that's what we
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Um, my grandma's was always so warm and fun and, you know, no rules. You know, we used to just go home baking and the cooking were always absolutely wonderful. I was very blessed and lucky, and I wanted to roll that out and share it with people because I think the world is all a bit crazy right now, a bit scary,
yeah,
and I want to ensure that my boys, you know, experience and know that, you know, that's what's important. Those family values, caring, kindness, a welcoming approach. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you're from. You're welcome. You know, as long as you've got nice manners and you care, and that's what we're creating there, and it's evolving so beautifully. And what I'm really, really enjoying now is telling stories through the village. I've not a very confident person, you know. It might look like that, you know. People would probably say, "Gosh, look at what she's
yes,
done." You know, she's
yes,
had a
yeah,
career, and I'm not. You know, I'm not sure of myself, and I'm not confident. But I do feel I have a lot of experience that people can relate to, and if I can make people smile and people feel welcome, I love that. I love being able to do that. And most recently, I've started using the village to, you know, tell real stories. And some of the stories I tell are, you know, people wouldn't know, but the first-hand experiences, you know. Um, and others are just based on my observations and things that I see, you know, things that I feel maybe might fall under the radar, you know.
yeah,
I think young people are getting such a bad rap, you know, some especially young boys, and they're amazing. You
yeah,
know, we had a group of young teenagers who came on their own, no parents, you know, that's what they chose to do, come to the
yes,
model village. And they did the quiz. I do a quiz which, you know, it's fun. It's just a fun quiz, and I will not put it on a scanner where people have to do it on the devices.
yeah,
They do it on a clipboard and a piece of paper with a little pencil, and they're resting on each other's backs, and
yeah,
they're having disputes about how many little mini rabbits there are. It's the most simplest but joyful, fun, nostalgic place. And these boys, you know, then came into the tea room. We've got a little tea room there, and ordered sandwiches. And when they'd finished, they stacked all the plates really neatly on the middle of the table. You know, there were no
yeah.
rudeness. They were really lovely, a joy to have and chat to. And I think we've got to remember. I don't know, we've got to see the good. There's a lot of, you know, social media. I really enjoy social media, but my goodness me, it can be such a, you know,
You're
toxic
absolutely right. Yeah,
place.
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do through this little bundle of joy, this little acre by the sea,
I
on the
love it.
east.
I can't wait to visit. I mean,
Yes,
you've said there that you lack confidence sometimes. So when you've had difficult times, when you are having a wobble and maybe the self-doubt is creeping in with what you're doing, how do you push past that?
yeah, yeah, I absolutely do. Um, I just remind myself, you know, who I am and where I came from, because it's, you know, everybody's got a right to be happy. Everybody's got a right to be comfortable, and, you know, I think another thing when I got into my 40s, I mean, I was 45 when I made the big change, when I sold the business, and something amazing happens when a woman's in the 40s, I think. I really wanted
Yes.
to be, you know, this new person when I was 40, and I wasn't ready. You know, I wanted, when I'm 40, yeah, that's it. I wasn't ready. I felt overweight. I wasn't happy in my skin. I was still probably really stressed and building, you know, the business.
Yeah.
I had such a lot going on, and I felt, you know, so I thought, I don't want to. not be ready for my 50s. And when I got to 45, I don't know, something just clicked and I really stopped caring as much about what people thought of me. And half of the time, they probably didn't think what I was thinking. They were thinking anyway. I mean, I don't know
Yes.
why we waste
I know, waste so much
time,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
thinking about what people are thinking. I don't know what that was. And yeah, I just pushed through it. I just think, no, like with my public speaking, it's very, very nerve-wracking. And I've got three, different hats. One about being a woman in business,
Yeah.
one about owning a model village and telling the stories and the power of miniature and, small world, big stories. And then one about being a mum to a boy with special needs. And that's the one that I'm most confident about because I own that. I feel, I've got a really good knowledge and understanding of that, and the approach that I've used to that is, I'm really comfortable with sharing. It's
Yeah.
really impactful. But yeah, just power on, push through when I've got those doubts, and they're still there a bit, not as much. I'm a lot more calm. I'm a lot more happier in my skin, but yeah, tough times over as a woman growing up, becoming in your 20s, being in business. It's a tough old world out there, so we've got to be kind to ourselves.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned Tommy, and I follow him on social media with you, and he is amazing. And he strikes me as somebody that you have probably learned so much from. How has that impacted you? Because he's just non-stop, isn't he? And he's doing amazing
Yeah,
things. What have you learned from him in this experience?
so much. So much. I think when I was a nursery owner when I had Tommy, and I used to think we were absolutely great at inclusion and we were brilliant, our approach towards families that had children with special needs. And I think it was, but Tommy just opened up a whole new chapter because I knew what those, I get upset when I talk about Tommy. I don't know why. It's because he's just everything. I think I feel what other mums and dads feel. There's so much going on for families. We're at such increased levels of families being affected by children who have difficulties or who have special needs, and I don't think we're equipped to deal with it. So some of this, the normal mundane things that we take for granted, not mundane, but going to school, taking your children to school, taking them for the routine appointments when they're not normal. And I don't like the word normal because I don't think there is a normal, but when they're not, mainstream and what we're used to, when they look different, it's like somebody pulls the rug from under your feet. There's been so many moments throughout, Tommy's journey where, oh gosh, it's room spin, you panic, you don't know what to do, and that is it's very, very lonely. So I often say, if I'd have had somebody to just put their hand on my shoulder and say, "Do you know what, Rachel, it's going to be just fine." In those early days, in those early years, I'd have clung on to it and I'd have listened to every word that they say, because it's also, appointment led. There's a lack of emotion, and when you don't have the answers, which we actually don't have a diagnosis for Tommy, we don't have, a condition or a reason as to why he didn't meet his movement milestones. So that's really, really tricky. And I think what he's done is shown us that it doesn't matter how bad you're feeling or how upset and nervous and worried you are for somebody who's been affected by a disability. They will show you that it will be okay. He
Yes.
is so strong and so brave and resilient. I mean, I do not worry about Tommy's mental health at all. He's so strong. He just big fat shows us. He turns up and he makes it fit, regardless of the fact he's in a wheelchair, regardless of the fact he can't, move around and walk. And Tommy is mainstream school, so he's taken his whole school career around, pupils and friends and other students that are all able-bodied, and they're okay. That's hard. He's seen them go to the sports clubs. He's seen them start dancing classes, gymnastics, football, and not being able to join, but then he's found his place at wheelchair rugby. It's a little
Yes.
bit later, but he's found his place, and
Yeah.
it's changed his life. But yeah, he has only made us all better people. He's enhanced our whole family, and I'm grateful for him every day, Rachel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And it
Yeah.
sounds like, you've found your place as well in the model village. It sounds like you really everything that you've done has led you to this point where you
Yeah.
really have found your sense of purpose and your passion, and it's all come together. And I love
Yeah,
that.
I feel that. It's all a bit crazy, um, because it's really tough running a small business. I had this established, successful business, a chain of nurseries that would have done quite fine until, retirement. Um, but I wasn't happy, and money is not everything. Um, I am a little bit nervous about what's to come because it's very tricky running this small business. And my husband's like, "Are you mad? Are you crazy?" But I believe in it. I believe
Yeah,
something great is gonna happen. One of the things I'm really enjoying is sharing the stories. Our followers, we've got some really lovely followers online, and there's many people who can't get there for whatever reason. They might be disabled, they
yeah,
might, be older, and they'll come into my inbox, and I have the most lovely exchanges, and they're getting to see the model village in a new light because of how I share it on social media and the
yes,
stories that we tell. I'm currently telling the story of an old man called Walter, and he lives in a bit of a scruffy house in the model village. And I've always wondered about, this house, that I won't paint it. This is an actual house in the model village. It reminds me of how far we've come.
yes,
And the story of Walter, we've found out that he was a fisherman, and he had, his beautiful wife. They lived there together since Bondville was created in the 80s. But he lost his wife, and he's been really sad and quite grumpy, and he's pushed his son away. We all know a Walter. We all know someone
yeah,
who's lost a wife. We all know. So it's quite powerful stuff. I'm really,
yeah.
really, yeah, enjoying seeing where it unfolds. Hopefully it'll all pay off, and I won't have sold up for nothing. But,
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and we will see it on the big screen as well soon because it's been included in the Hot Flash film. So I can't
yeah.
wait to see the premiere of that. I'll see your
I
model
know, that was
village on
so
the screen.
exciting. I might be, serving coffee in there at some point in that hot flash film. I did get myself in there. But yeah, that were really exciting being chosen as a location. It is so beautiful on camera.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely place, yeah.
I mean, I am, as you know, I'm starting my own swimwear brand at the moment. So I, for the first time at 55, started my own small brand, and it's exciting. It is scary, and like you say, it's also a lonely place to be because you are, especially at the beginning, doing it all yourself, and it feels like you're questioning every decision I make. What advice would you give to somebody like me that's right at the beginning of their journey?
Say if you truly believe deep down, I think your gut feeling is always right and you should listen to it. So if you truly believe that you've got something that you're going to be able to deliver and do well, no matter how big or small, you just keep going. You keep going until you get it. The sleepless nights, they happen. Be kind to yourself. Take your time. Because I used to be really quite not aggressive, but I was like bull in a china shop. If I had an idea, so
I'm like that.
take your time. I think that comes with being a bit older as well. That's nice now. I'm a little bit calmer. I don't know if my husband would agree. He thinks I'm absolutely but, just go for it because what is the worst that can happen? You can get a little knockback or it might not work out as well as you'd hoped, but just think about if it does pay off and how great is that? I'm so inspired by women in business and women who are brave enough to give things a go. So that is what I'd say. Just go for it with everything you've got.
Thank you, Rachel. I have loved talking to you today. My last two questions I asked all my guests. If you were to pay yourself a compliment, what would it be?
Oh my goodness me. Oh, that's so hard, Rachel. Isn't
I
it
know
hard to
it
talk
is.
about
Honestly,
nice things?
I've had so many people. I've had people in tears being asked that. I've had people that have just been completely stumped, and because we're just so uncomfortable with that idea of giving ourselves a compliment, and particularly as women. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important that we do stop and
I
acknowledge
do.
our
No,
strengths.
I think it's a great question. If I'm really, really honest, I genuinely would say that I'm a caring person. I really feel and empathize and care about people and people's stories. And, I think, yeah, I think that's it. I'd say I'm caring and I like that about myself.
Yeah, I can really see that, Rachel. Thank you. And my last question, what does free to be mean to you?
Gosh, happiness. I think if you can find your bits of happiness and pursue them, even if it's only a little bit, it leads to nice things. I think we can all get really trapped in our own lives. I know I have over the years. So I think it's really lovely to just pick one or two aspects. Some that, for me, I absolutely love photography and I love bird watching. I'm so old, but I absolutely love it. It's another bonus of Bondville. We've got the most beautiful
Yes.
birds and wildlife there. So it's finding a bit of your happiness and pursuing it as much as you can. And that gives you the freedom to really be you and sit as you and feeling happy, in your skin. For me, that's yeah, it's so important. I feel like I grafted and worked so hard that there was no time for me for quite a lot of years.
Yeah.
So I've found something, it's both because work makes me very, very happy, but my work is now my, happy place. It genuinely is my happy place. So that's my free to be.
Love it. Thank you so much. And how can people find out about Bondville Model Village? Where can they go
So
and look?
we're on YouTube, Bondville Model Village. We're on Instagram and Facebook, Bondville Model Village, and I'm Rachel Mary Hill on Instagram.
I will share all the links and it's been an absolute pleasure and I can't wait to see you again soon and come and pay you a visit. Can't wait.
Yes, definitely. We'll have to have afternoon tea.
Lovely. Sounds perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel. Love talking to you today. Take care.
Thank you very much. See you later.
See you. Bye. I loved that conversation with Rachel. It was a really interesting and inspiring insight into a woman in business that has really taken her own gut instincts and really followed her intuition. And look where it's led her to. I can't wait to go and visit the Bondville Model Village. And it's that great example of visit. It is never too late to pivot and do something different. It's never too late to listen to what really makes you happy and to take that risk and take a step out of your comfort zone and do it. And because you just don't know where it's going to lead to. And everything that Rachel's done and all the work and the career that she's had in the past has led her to this point. And I talk to so many people through this podcast and events that I go to that are actually doing things now later in life that actually followed their true passion when they were younger, and it's something that has rekindled it. And I love that idea. I know for me, when I did drama A level, I always wanted to do acting, and I never had the courage to follow it through when I was in my 20s. But now look at the stuff that I'm doing, and I suppose it's all kind of part of that. It's part of the things that I love about performing and being on stage and in front of a camera. So I love hearing how she's really taking this model village, filling it with her own passions, sharing stories, and I cannot wait to visit. So let me know what you think. And again, this is somebody that I met through networking with the Yorkshire Ladies Link. And next year, I'm a keynote speaker for their main event of the year. So I can't wait for that in February. And if you are somebody that is a bit scared of networking, just go to an event, take that chance, step out, do it, because you just don't know where it'll lead to. And I've always found people are so supportive and really want to make sure that you have a good time. People aren't there to intimidate you; they are made to feel there to make you feel welcome. So go and do it, because being in business in particular can be a lonely place to be, especially when you're self-employed. And these networking events are so good at helping you feel more like you are part of a team. And it's just a really nice way to meet new people. So that's how I met Rachel, and I'm so glad that I did. Swimwear updates. We are now on to sampling next sizes. I've had some fantastic feedback from some of the models that have tried it. I have made the difficult decision. It's been taking me a while to get my head around sizes. So I've made the decision to really go for it and make sure that this brand is fully for the more curvy women. So it starts at a size 12 and it is going to be for the fuller busted. So it's actually starting a D cut and going up to G at the moment. So it'll be D, double D, E, F, double F, G. And because I know how difficult it is to find swimwear that supports my 34G boobs whilst looking flattering, that doesn't have to be underwired. And I spent this last year, it has taken us a year to get this design right. So I wanted to make sure that this will deliver to those women that really struggle to find swimwear that they feel supported in and feel super confident and with a little bit of sexiness along thrown into it. So we're getting closer. It's been a real labour of love, but the most important part of this whole process has been getting the design right and making sure the material's right and that people feel supported and comfortable. And the feedback so far has been amazing. So I'll keep you posted. I'll keep you updated. It is still happening, and it is hopefully going to be launched in the middle of summer. So fingers crossed, it's all heading in the right direction. And I cannot wait to get it out there in the world. And that is my first business adventure. So yes, it's a scary place to be, but I am following my heart, and I cannot wait to share it with you all. And I'll be back in another couple of weeks, and I will be I'll be keeping you updated with everything that's going on with Liberty Free to Be. I've got some exciting news as well for a live event coming in the later of the year, so I'll keep you posted. In the meantime, keep being fabulous. Thank you so much for listening to Liberty Free to Be, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. If it spoke to you, please don't forget to follow, leave a review, and share with somebody who might need a reminder that they are free to be themselves. You can find me on Instagram at RachelCrew1, and don't forget to follow our growing swimwear brand community over at Liberty Free to Be. If you'd like even more connection and conversation, come and join our free Facebook group, the Liberty Lifestyle Hub, where over 300 women are cheering each other on every single day. Until next time, keep being fabulous.